Hello and welcome. Today we're speaking with Cyrus from Sleep, a company dealing with sleep, helping people improve their sleep and dealing with insomnia. We go through the importance of positioning and finding the users that you want to serve and how that impacts your product development and company development for the future. AI and the importance of building a moat to protect yourself from rapid development in the market, and also how Cyrus uses webinars as the main user acquisition strategy for Sleep. Stay tuned to learn all of these. Welcome, Cyrus. It's great to have you here. To start, could you give us a little bit of information about your background so far?
Well, Tiago, thank you very much for having me. Pleasure. Always a pleasure chatting with you and talking all subjects marketing. So a little bit about me. Co-founder at Sleep, which was originally called Sleepyhead Program. Sleep is a virtual sleep clinic focusing primarily or importantly on insomnia and ongoing insomnia. And I'd say a combination of digital therapeutics, so personalized sleep retraining program, this is what we call it, associated with access to sleep specialists in telehealth, teleconsultations with sleep specialists. Originally, that's not quite how it started, but it evolved over time, and pretty much today that's where we position ourselves.
Okay. Yeah. So just like any good startup, you have a few iterations until you find product market fit.
100%. And well, I'd like to say more than product market fit, it's also product and business customer fit, because I think that there are many ways this market to enter the sleep and insomnia market, but by doing so, you also the customers you choose, the customers you have are defined by your choices earlier on. So I think it was that as well, the realization of who is it that we want to serve? Who do we believe we're better than other people at serving? And who is it that we want to serve? I think that's also important.
That's quite interesting. I think it definitely merits a little bit of going a little bit deeper there. So when you're talking, how do you define exactly the user that you want to serve? Can you go give us a little bit of an explanation of how we would go about that?
So sleep is a bit of a complicated one because the subject is a complex one, and I think most people will find it a bit difficult to understand. But if I take the example of weight loss, and we're going to take weight loss as a whole marketplace. So especially in the early days, the choices on who you're going to be offering so you could go down the avenue of targeting people and offering training, nutrition plus sport. It could be only nutrition. It could be medication. It could be surgical, and or a blend of these. And yes, in a way, especially in our space and in the digital space, we and startup and tech, we define product market fit. But I think there is so much of a market when you're actually successful at being able to do what you do. But what you've got to take into consideration is, are you best suited, and do you want to be serving the market that you think that you're going to be serving? So I'll give you an example here. If you're the kind of very military person and you think, I'm going to do nutrition and sport, but the way you've positioned yourself is making it easy, etc., then don't complain if the people that you're serving are moaning because it's too hard, etc., You've chosen those people. Now you're going to have to serve them in the way they want to be served, right? Or change the people you're serving. But who you serve is important in the beginning. And I think, especially when you're one of the co-founders, you've got to think about, who do I enjoy working with? How do I enjoy working? So we could have gone for, in the sleep space, for the, so, minimal support, minimum care, hyper resilient, disciplined people. But what was very important to all the team was was the service, was the empathy, the support that we want to give people that aren't, the guys that do their New Year resolutions and hit everything, right? So we wanted to have a big service part, and that's why we decided to go down that space as well. And then we thought, okay, these are the people we want to serve. What would it look like if we're going to serve those people? What do they need? And then go out and get that product market fit within that particular space.
Mm-hmm. So basically, trying to understand, you wanted to go as a team to a quality service. And so you decided to, okay, let's focus on finding the users who are actually keen and motivated to go through this journey with us. That means, my hypothesis here is that the price that you're going to be able to charge is going to be slightly higher as well, because the motivation is going to be there.
100%, 100%,
Yeah.
100%. We could have gone down the avenue of making it for those super motivated people, but frankly, when we looked at what our strengths were, we didn't want to go down that road. And when people do come to us, and we tell them, there are other routes for you. You might not need this, and yeah, we enjoy, but also we could have gone to a lot more, many more touch points, but we didn't either want to go to that. So yeah, I think it's important to find your sweet spot, and I think in business you've got to understand that you've got the customers you deserve, and you have the business that you deserve from decisions that were made way before. So, if you're a primary school teacher and you come home every day and you're like, oh, I can't stand the noise, they're running all over the place. You chose to have those people as your customers, those little kids. So it's you 5 years ago you got to talk to, and so yeah, that was very important, and a lesson that I learned previously in other businesses, that think carefully about who you serve and who you want to serve. Do you, 5 years on from now, will you be really happy serving them? Yeah.
That's quite interesting, and actually opens up for my next question. I think, you mentioned your past experience that educated yourself towards making sure that you know who you want to serve. Are any other other things that your background helps you when co-founding Resleep?
So I don't know if the word lucky, but I've been, or fortunate, but I co-founded 2 other startups before that, and it's a tough job. It's something you do that you're an outlier. So, being able to stay alive for over a couple of years is a success. And then you might as well have fun, right? And be serving people you love to be serving, because then every day is better. And then you can't complain about where you are, and at least you're doing something you love for people you love. And so, particularly I was in the wine space. I had a startup in the wine space, and there could have been many directions I could have gone. I could have gone towards very commercial. I could have gone towards the very high end, but that wasn't in my DNA and my passion. It's lovely friends and I love great wines, but those are not the people I wanted to serve. I wanted to serve another kinds of and so I chose that segment after a pivot, after getting it wrong for myself, and thinking, why am I going that direction? That doesn't. I'm not interested in those customers. Not nothing to do with them personally, but as a customer type, they're not the ones that are of interest to me. And again, I worked in the supplement space for athletes, and again, in that space, there's a whole bunch different kinds of areas, and you choose what you want to be doing. And for some, that choice is led by money and market size solely. And that's fair enough if that's your choice, 100%. But yeah, it wasn't a direction I wanted to take, or our team as a whole wanted to take. Yeah.
Yeah, that combined, like, it's a really good point, I think. Especially, founder of, a small agency as well. It's important to enjoy the work that you do, right? And that goes extremely by, choosing the clients that you want to serve, positioning yourself to serve them the best you can, so you can actually, make a profit to make a living out of it.
That's important as well,
Yes,
Tiago. You raise a fantastic point that I had forgotten about.
everyone has bills, and everyone
Yeah,
has,
yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. No, no, but oftentimes, unless you stop and really think about it, you, you know, will you be able to make a profit from the audience you want to serve? If I take your example, going after early stage startups and helping them, fantastic in the passion, but also it's difficult to get the kind of being able to charge what you're really worth to those people at that moment in time, where you can be a great right hand because you've had experience on so many. You can bring that wealth of experience, but getting that, being able to charge them what you're worth is difficult. So yeah, but I think things are in that particular space are going to change with AI. I think that definitely the new superstars of startups are going to be sales and marketing people.
yeah. I think it's so interesting because, I've been doing this for some time now. I can say that, and
You don't look
around,
it. You don't look it.
I
You still
know,
look young.
I moisturize every day. That's the secret. And on the 2010s, I think that if you know how Meta and how Google worked, you could make a mediocre product scale quite well, and give it enough time for the product teams to develop and, clear up the bugs and making sure that you have product market fit. Around the early 2020s, we saw a shift that everyone, Meta and Google became quite easy and quite standardized activity. It's a lot of creative work, but the technical aspect of it has been quite diminished. And now you need a good product to be able to sell. It's not just good advertisement anymore. And what you're saying, and I'll be honest, I completely agree with you. We're going to see that every product has the potential to be a great product technically, with the new, developments in AI. But then we go back to the idea of, good marketing will be able to help you out of out of the multitude of different options out there. And also, it's interesting because one thing that I have some experience on the mobile gaming industry, where you find something that works and suddenly, in 2 weeks time, all your competitors are on top of that. So it's always a never ending cycle there of trying to learn and finding your edge. I feel on the product side, we're going to start seeing that very soon as well. If you have a good product today, in 2 weeks time, you're going to have a few competitors showing up. And
For
that's,
sure.
yeah.
And it's crazy what's happening now with, I was always looking at all the crazy AI tools and thinking, wow, I would love to be in that space. I can already see how I would be selling it. I can see the virality in it. But now when I look at like, you raise a few million, you're thinking, wow, I can see this. But what is your moat? I mean, I've got a guy who, who built. I'm not going to debate the actual business, but Builder AI raised 250 million a year and a half ago. Yeah, nearly 2 years ago, and then went bust into administration 2 years ago, 2 weeks ago. Now, if you're going through 250 million at that rate and you're being eaten by your competition, what does it mean for the multitude of AI companies that have raised 10 million that you know 10 years ago, you raised 250 million, only you're an outlier if that business goes out, right?
Yeah.
Today things are going to be changing, and I think, you know what's your moat? Because what I'm seeing, UGC AI made images, very average, unbelievable growth rates. The product itself, I'm going to debate. I'm talking about video here. Once you're going to have VO3 and the others coming into that space now with voice. Where are you going to be? You're dead, and you've raised I don't know how much. You were king of the world, and then bam, slaps you in the face. And so I think that product is going to be like not standardized, but and it's going to be your capacity to be able to go out there, build a brand. We're going to come back to building those brands. you know what does it mean to people? Yeah, it's going to be hard, I think, that space.
Yeah, yeah, and it shows again the importance of positioning, and as you're saying, choosing precisely who you want to serve and building that product for that specific audience from the get-go. Because then, if you're well positioning to one smaller segment, you're able to build your moat around them a little bit better because you will understand the users better. You understand how to talk to them, and also you're gonna the more time you spend talking to people, you build relationships, and that's true even if you're a person or if you're a brand, right? And I think that goes back to your point from the start. Once again, that I completely agree with. That it's so important to choose who you want to serve. The idea of my products for everyone, it doesn't float. It doesn't float.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Cool. Now that was a big tangent. So Resleep marketing strategy. Do you can you share a little bit? What's been the journey so far? How has it evolved? Throughout the years, because you've been around for 4 years now, Resleep, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. So obviously the marketing strategy, well, I'm assuming the marketing strategy has changed throughout those years. So do you want to take us on a journey, how
Yeah,
it went?
I think that journey is very much linked to to how, a lot of the things that you've touched upon. We started, and the ambition for Resleep was to be a B2C brand. We wanted to serve people, get data, be able to improve our product for these people, and you know the alternatives were going B2B, so being into the employee benefit space. But then you're dependent on a lot of other people, and on something as complex as sleep, we didn't trust really that we would be used by other people. And if we can't be used, we can't develop the product and improve it and be at the forefront, because digital therapeutics is something that's complex. And in that sleep space, there were things that worked for certain kinds of people, and maybe less for other kinds of people, and definitely not for the kind of people we were looking to help. Going down the NHS route wasn't really of interest. Again, similar problems. The problem is that people who suffer from long-term insomnia, have given up on their doctors. Doctors, sadly, aren't educated on sleep. They get a total of 2 hours education on their total education in medicine on sleep. And so as a result, what would give me the confidence, and suddenly doctors were going to be prescribing a digital therapeutics when they didn't even understand the condition. Most of it is underdiagnosed and misdiagnosed as other conditions. So we decided to go down down the B2C route. It was something that I particularly enjoyed. It was something that I had an idea of how it worked in that particular niche, because I was heading growth and marketing at a sleep tech business called Cocoon that did headphones to help people sleep. So I had an idea of how things worked. And we started off as a really digital therapeutics, and then slowly looked at, okay, how, as I told you, the kinds of people we were getting. And then we decided we're going to be serving this particular niche. And then slowly added in teleconsultations, added it a community aspect, and then the product changed. The ambition was to raise, after a while, was to raise a VC round and go big on B2C, build a big brand that people relate with and understand it's for this kind of sleep problem, and then go enter the B2B market, which is a more profitable avenue. We raised a round with VCs, and then a follow-up. And then, the market, as you're aware, became very, very complicated. Raising money was very difficult in health tech, and even more so in B2C. So the difficulty we have is that in 3 to 6 months, we treat over 85% of the people, and they're cured, right? Cured is not the perfect word, but they've got back control of their sleep. So the problem is that after that, there is no revenue. So we have one upfront payment. We've tested monthly for X kind of months. We do have a program after to help people, but it's a performance game. Sadly, entering the B2B market has been extremely difficult. First, because there's been a lot of layoffs, people weren't seeing. And secondly, what insomnia sufferers know about sleep, HRs don't understand sleep. So, I've been talking to a lot of big CEOs that I know personally, and they think they've got sleep covered. So they're like, oh, I've got Calm or Headspace, and yeah, we've got insomnia covered, or we have a mental health helpline. It's a bit like saying, oh yeah, we've got band-aids for open fractures. We've got it all covered. Anything that happens, and you try to tell them, but when you're a startup, from the moment you're trying to convince someone and help them understand that they're wrong, you're fighting an uphill battle. So we did try to enter B2B. We've done some great work. With wonderful businesses, but you need a lot more. So we're in the pure performance marketing space. So at the beginning of the month, we start with zero, a big fat zero, and we got to go out there and make the sales to cover all the salaries. And so, yeah, that's how it works today. We are looking at other possible models where we would team up with private health. We are looking at franchising, which we've had a interest in another geography, in building a franchise of sleep clinics. So this space of B2C is difficult in the sleep space. So yeah, it's all performance, 100%.
And obviously, I know what you're famous for, at least on the growth world. You're the webinar for B2C guy.
It's become that. It's crazy.
Yeah. You should have a T-shirt made. So and obviously, but I'll assume you try the traditional click on an ad, go to a landing page, and convert directly. How did you go for, you know what, I'm gonna put up, a 1 hour webinar in between the
Yeah.
conversion, and that actually is gonna work out better for me.
Yes, those are exact questions. So we, went out and try to sell different ways, and then you get your CAC to LTV very quickly, and then you realize, okay, my my target customer is here. What are the things that are gonna have to happen in their mind for them to be ready to buy? And for the majority of them, and this is where we realize that education is the only way that, and even within that education, they need time to crystallize different things. So, you know, the sleep space is very complex. Everybody thinks there is a magic trick, etc. So a lot of noise, very low level of trust. People have tried everything. When they come to us, they've tried everything, right? But still, most people want an easy way. So if I tell you, if we go back to the weight loss, and oftentimes people try and compare us to weight loss, but the thing is that weight loss, people know that to lose weight, you have to eat less calories than you expand. And there are different strategies.
Yeah.
And what is going to change from one actor to the other is going to be their strategies. For some, it's going to be Ozempic and appetite suppressants. For the others, it's going to be sports. Others, is going to be nutrition. Others, is going to be a mix of those. But with sleep, people don't know how they can get to sleep again. They've tried everything. And so you've got to explain it to them. And you've got to, make it safe for them. It's got to be someone who's super knowledgeable, who brings confidence. You've got to explain to them why what they've tried hasn't worked. You've got to give them the confidence that what you're telling them about works. You've got to bring to them the different variables and make them understand what are the levers that you need to be aware of when going down this avenue versus going down a similar avenue with a competitor. What makes the difference? And so education was the only way. And so when I started looking at how the sales were done, sales when my co-founder had a sleep clinic, and I look at initial consultations, I realized, wow, it's going to require a lot of education from them. And this is from the moment that people have called in, right? So I realized it needed education. And how do you bring education? There's, we could have done it with Meta, with Sales Series. You could have done an email. There are many ways. But when I had tested webinars out in the wine space. I had tested webinars in the B2B restaurant group, etc. space. I knew that we could keep people, and I understood all the variables that were at play. And so you go out and you're like, can I bring people wow moments and keep them on? And if, and then it's a numbers game. And so when you've got something that you're trying to sell that's going to require education, I don't think there's anything that's better really than speaking to them for an hour. You can do that. We could have done that with a free consultation, higher conversion rate, but then it wasn't. The turn-up rates were really low. Very hard to get the confidence and the authority of having our sleep expert going after call after call after call. So the one to many avenue, or two to many, because we have two people on our webinar, was the avenue that worked best for us. And that's not to say that that is the best for everyone.
Yeah, of course. I mean, definitely, it's quite interesting. A lot of business, especially on the startups, they're trying to build something that's kind of new. At least, it's a new concept for the vertical. They always go through that phase of education. Obviously, for sleep, the level of education that you need to go through is completely different than someone trying. My memory comes back to my days at Treatwell, where we had to educate users that they could book their nail salon by an app, and that was already a piece of education that we had to do. And there's a lot of awareness work that we had to do because of that. But obviously, we could hit that where your traditional digital awareness channels here, because you, as I say, you need to have like a long period of time of the attention. That wouldn't work. So quite interesting that you're finding webinars to work so well. Walk me a little bit about. Sorry, but I'm a stickler for the tech side of things. So, what sort of tech do you use? Do you have like a studio where you do your webinar from, or do you do from your living room? How does it work?
So we had so many different webinars that we've tested, and so many different concepts. Today we use a setup where, so when first of all, when you choose to go down the webinar, there are different avenues you can take. You can take a one person webinar, which is good, but that person has got to be unbelievable at being able to keep attention, to stay in line. And so, number one, the other avenue is you can do a panel. It's good. It brings a bit of diversity. Hard to manage because you people on the other side, they want to hear one person more than the other whenever somebody else. Anyway, we decided to go down the one person expert, so our chief medical officer being interviewed by another person from the team. And the way that we did it was we went down psychologically what goes on in someone's mind. So first of all, who's going to speak? So when you see, I don't know, you say you're into fitness training, and you see something, we get so much information that we have a filter to very quickly decide, do I value what you're saying or not? So we need to get that authority. And the way to bring authority is always better when somebody else tells people you're great. And even if it's someone in your team, it's always useful to have and say, oh, you're unbelievable, you've done this, that. It's a lot easier than saying, oh, I'm unbelievable, like, and it comes out more. And then, so we decided, first of all, to go down the avenue of this avenue, and then telling the story the way that these consultations go. So typically they'll meet a sleep specialist, and they go, listen, I've got this sleep problem. Well, they'll say, what is it? And so then they'll explain, what have you tried before? And so we try to recreate it in that way with a Q&A kind of format. And so that's the avenue we decided to take. We've done it in a studio. We've done it, each one at home, with a better setting than this behind, and we didn't see much of a difference. Much easier to edit with at home than with a studio. Having said that, the studio that we did it at a second studio, which was really, really good in West London, in Pall Mall Deposit, and they've got, you can have 3 cameras, so and you get those 3 in different videos, super high quality, audio is super cool. So yeah, I think it depends on the individual.
Okay, interesting. Thank you for sharing that. And obviously, you go through the webinar, you get people in through. You mentioned meta ads. People register, they show up to the webinar, and what now? What happens afterwards? I mean, the follow up is definitely here key to get people to convert. So are you able to share some light into it? What's the process?
So yeah, so it's it's the health space. You've got to be respectful of your customers. We don't do high pressure sales. We decided not to do that. And so, if I look at the full funnel, meta ad drives to a landing page, registration, then a pre-webinar email series to warm you up, just again to bring that authority, to bring the excitement that you're going to be learning things that are going to wow you. Then people turn up. Uh, you know, uh, Getting that percentage of people coming on. So again, you could decide to go with evergreen and people can come in last minute versus an event every X day. That's going to have implication on turn up rate, on how long people stay. And then you have an offer in that webinar. Again, devil's in the detail. You could put your offer and then have a Q&A. You could finish your Q&A, have an offer. I mean, these are all things that need to be tested. Again, possible dates you should be testing, time of day. And then, yeah, follow up. So I'd say that we get 85% of sales within the next 48 hours after the event, and 90% of our sales come from people who viewed the webinar live, and then the replay is going to bring in a few other sales. With things that then need time, as I told you, we get sales afterwards. So we have long nurturing sequences. Why? Because when you're talking about something that's as difficult as that, people need to crystallize things in their head. They need to decide that they're ready. And so you then get 85%, and then you've got a long tail of people coming in for weeks on end. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like buying a pack of gum, right? So it's something that people think about. They'll have to decide, make sure that's
Yeah,
right for
yeah, yeah,
them.
for sure. We don't want them to feel pressurized,
Yep,
because if they turn up and they don't, if they're not up for it, and then we don't have the people we want. So
exactly. Going back to the start of the conversation.
yeah, 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 for sure.
In terms of, we're almost getting to the end of our talk, unfortunately. But for other founders, they're thinking about going to the webinar path. Do you have any advice for them to start, with the right foot?
I'd say it's not for every business, for sure. But if your business is hard to understand, and if you're making sales when you explain things to people, but you can't online, of course, there's a lot of reasons. Um, your pages, your copy, your etc. But if people need education, then think about webinar. And then what I'd say is think about your target customer. How do they go about making decisions? How do you bring them from you know solution aware, a problem aware, solution unaware, or even problem unaware, and you reveal the problem during the webinar, to the moment they make a decision. Do it live, do live webinars in the beginning, take all the questions, improve your webinar, answer those questions, do a few sequences of that, then you've got a solid webinar. And then you can start thinking about how you get an evergreen webinar from that. But I'd say, testing is a thing. So think about what's your cost per lead, okay? And you've got to do the math. So, what's your objective in cost per acquisition, or your CAC? And then what does that mean in terms of the funnel? Because if you're good in webinars, you're going to have a live turn up rate of anywhere. I aim for 35% plus, and then I always aim for more than 50% of people having viewed my offer. So 50% of people who sign up to my webinar have to have gone 50 minutes on our webinar. I've got a cost for that. That works out really well for us in terms of acquisition. And then if it's not, you've got to work it backwards, and then you've got a conversion rate at the end of how many people who've seen your offer buy. And again, you've got to be at, I'd say 15% plus. But again, it depends, on the product. But this is the way I would think upfront about the maths, because it might not make sense for you. It depends on your lifetime value and then your CAC. And then that means how many people do you need to see your offer with a 15, 20% conversion rate of that? What does that mean in terms of if 50% of people view your offer, in terms of what do you need a cost per lead to be at? And then think about the thing with webinar is you're going to have a hell of a lot of signups, and it's going to be your capacity in following up and making other offers to all the people who signed up, who didn't turn up, who signed up, didn't stay till the offer. So think about all those things.
Okay, interesting. So basically quantifying the whole user journey, and even you go to the point of breaking down the webinar into different points,
Yeah.
and then quantifying, which is quite
Yeah,
interesting.
because I think, you've got to have people who come to the webinar and who haven't viewed your offer. They're qualified leads. They need to be nurtured. So could you do that with an email series? Could you do that with a call? Could you do that with sequences of videos? Could you give them an alternate offer? How do you activate those people? Because that's a lot of people. Those numbers go up quickly in terms of your CRM is filling up like with huge numbers. Because I don't know, with our webinars, we've gone, that webinar alone has gone way above 1 million revenue. But to get that, you can imagine the number of leads that we've had. And so I don't know how much, with the CRM, with the deactivated people, etc., how much that represents. But yeah, I think you've got to think up front of the maths. But it makes some sense to a lot of people, especially the conversations we've had, Thiago, with people in the health space, in the wellness space. I think in the whole longevity space is going to be very interesting. And obviously in all the AI space, but that's a lot more B2B, right? But I think it could also be, successful in people wanting to build personal agent AI agents for as VAs, all those kind of things. Webinar would be great for that.
Yeah, and also going back to the idea of building a moat for your company as well. If you're gathering all of that information on the leads, that is data that your company owns, that you have some sort of permission to contact as well. So that gives you an upper hand to protect yourself a little bit.
And it builds a stronger brand than
Yeah,
the very soft kind of marketing you're doing on Meta and straight to a sale. If you think how valuable it is to speak to people for 50 minutes, it's not easy to get. How many TV programs get to people to watch them for 50 minutes straight? Yeah.
No, thank you. Yeah, no, that's very useful. Sarah, thank you so much for your time. Thanks so much for all the knowledge that you shared today. If anyone wants to, keep a hand of what you're doing and what Resleep is doing, where is better for them to find you?
So LinkedIn is the place. Even though we're a B2C company, reach out on LinkedIn.
Thank you so much, Cyrus.
Thank you, Thiago.